Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to get started. The first item is the exit instructions. In case there is an evacuation, their alarm will sound. Everybody should go out these doors and go down the nearest stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you reach the main floor, follow the exit signs and go outside. Be mindful of others that are evacuating and emergency vehicles. No need to explain the process because Matt's been here before and he knows that. Okay, roll call.
Larry Chesney.
Here.
Bruce Stanhope.
Here.
Joe Everett.
Here.
Stanley Hedrick. Here. Brian King.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for November. As you know, we did not have a December meeting because there was no items presented. So are there any corrections on the November meeting minutes, or do you want to approve them as prepared?
Make a motion.
Second.
Brian, and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, now, next item, we have a request from Frank Thela for a variance for the front and side setback. Don't you want to give us a brief summary of that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request probably looks familiar to y'all. Back in October, I believe it was, there was a similar request, actually the exact same request on the property immediately adjacent to this one. So, like I said, I hope it wasn't confusing because it's a very similar request. In this case, the applicant has about 1 1/3 acre, the lot on River's Edge Road. They want to build a single-family home. Just like the other request, this one has, it's limited in its buildable area because it's got the river on one side, or actually to the rear. About half the property, actually more than half the property is actually underwater. And then in the front, there's a CSX railroad access easement. And because of those things, you're kind of limited in buildable area. And in addition to that, the area necessary to install a septic system for the house. So with that, the applicant is requesting a reduction to 10 feet on the front, which actually would be 10 feet off of the edge of that access and right-of-way for the railroad, and setback reduction from 10 feet to 5 feet on one side of the property line to give them room to put the house in there. The applicant has prepared some additional materials that they've provided as part of the application. And I don't think we have a representative from the family here tonight to speak to this. So the board may take that into consideration if they want to delay action on it, or
Okay, is there anyone here tonight in favor of this request? Okay, Thomas, I have some questions.
Yes, sir.
As you drive back that gravel road, the yellow on this map shows 5039. And it says that the one that we approved previously was 5037.
Yes.
And the one beside it is 5035. Where is 5037?
Yeah, those are some differences in the address that was assigned from 911, and I don't think that's been updated on the GIS layer yet. So.
Well, is the one that's enclosed in yellow actually the 5039 that we're approving tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then what number is the house that you go out there, it's just finished and has a turnaround in the front yard and a mailbox in the turnaround? What number is it?
I'm not sure, sir. I think it's further down, isn't it?
Well,
It is.
Yeah.
Well, not very far though.
Yeah.
It's got to be 41 or 43.
Yeah, I don't have an updated aerial here.
Because
sir.
right beside the house that's built now, they've cleaned off, looks like a couple of lots with some trees and stumps.
I would thought it'd be further down than that.
Well,
You think it's?
I don't know. Where
I
the
was-
sign
what-
that Thomas put up is right beside that new house.
Oh, really?
I was just back a few feet.
Actually, I did not put up the sign, the staff did.
There was a sign out there.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I didn't personally
Oh.
put it up.
Oh.
Doug Hancock did.
Well, somebody put it.
Yes, sir.
Well, anyway, it's close to the new
Yeah.
house. The other question is, you look at these, it's hard to measure from the gravel road.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
the way it winds out through there. So this request will be how far from the railroad?
It will be 10 feet from the edge of the easement. And so the easement actually encloses both the railroad and the access. So it's actually a wide easement that's CSX. So from the actual tracks, I don't know exactly. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how far the house will be from the gravel road.
It would be at least 10 feet, be about 10 feet from the road, from the gravel.
10 feet?
Yes, sir.
I don't,
That gravel road is within the CSX easement?
Yes.
How far is it gonna be from the railroad then?
It would be the width of the gravel plus whatever it is from the road to the railroad tracks and then the other side of that. So you're probably 25 feet, guess.
well, that new house out there is more than 10 feet away from the road, gravel road. I mean, it's set back.
Yeah.
10 feet, you can't park a car perpendicular, but you could parallel. But it's 30 feet from the road. I mean, it's not close to the road.
Yes, sir. This is the same request on it.
Well, that new house then is not the one that we approved before. It must have been another lot.
No, sir. The one that's been built, the one that you all approved back in October isn't under construction yet. The one that was already built, they didn't request any variances or anything. They were able to push it back further. They
Well,
had
it looks
more
like
land.
it meets,
Yeah, yeah, they had enough land to be able to.
I just didn't remember the house being, the last time, that close to the road. Although there's some others, as you're going out there, some of those others, you can't park a car in front of the house either.
Yeah, and actually, if you look in the materials that the applicant provided, there's some pictures in there, different addresses that kind of shows you some of the other houses down River's Edge and their proximity to the road there.
But the difference there is you can measure to the blacktop.
That's true, yes, sir.
Going out through there, the way that road winds out through there, I'm not sure you can tell whether, if they paved it, I'm not sure you could tell that we're 10 feet off a paved road. Now, who owns that road? If it was gonna be paved, who would pave it?
It's private. It's within the easement, so it's actually the railroads. Yeah.
Well, who paved the paved road out there?
The paved road is a county road,
So,
and then it stops.
okay, so the county road stops where the pavement stops?
Yeah,
And
more or
from
less.
there on, it's a private
Yes,
gravel
sir.
road?
Yes, sir.
And that gravel road is on the railroad easement?
Correct.
So how much say-so's the railroad got in this since they own it?
But I would say that they, so the easement, the access to the individual properties is actually granted by CSX. So,
So I imagine they've got this worked out.
yeah, so all of these properties through there, we, the county, have told them, these lots are not on county road. So there's no guarantee of access there. You're kind of at your own risk, because it's a private property issue as far as easements and things. Private property, easement, access, those issues.
Just what if CSX decided one day, nah, this is over?
Yeah, I mean, then the property owners are going to have to fight with CSX.
I apologize, because I just didn't remember the last time we were allowing a house to be that close to a gravel road that wasn't that well defined.
Of course, another way to look at it is that it isn't actually a road. It's a, it's an easement. It does have access in it, and it also has the railroad conveyance in it. But the way that our setbacks are written it says that, 30-foot setback off of right-of-ways or access easements. So that's where our zoning comes into play, which is what we're looking at.
What I'm struggling with is if you don't know how far the road is away from the railroad, then you actually don't know how far the house is from the railroad, because we're saying it's based on the road, and we don't know where the road's located relative to the railroad.
Well, it's based on the easement. And so if a surveyor would set the pins on the edge of the easement, mark where the easement is, and that's where you'd pull the
Has that been
setback
done yet?
from. I don't know if it has on this property or not.
Is it something we need to take in consideration?
Yeah.
Before you make you know what I'm saying? You need to know what you're saying yes to.
Yeah.
They did not provide us with a survey in this application.
I think that's what you.
My concern right now is that if we approve this, we could approve it to where then you couldn't go out to the next lots, because the house is blocking it. But I don't know that. It could be okay.
You, Mr. Fielder? Yes, sir.
Sorry, there was a wreck and saw it.
Okay.
Oh, you want to step up? And your name?
Frank File. I apologize for the tardiness.
Frank, we're trying to understand that that's a gravel road and it's a private road and it's on the railroad easement.
Yes, sir.
Have you had that property surveyed?
Yes, sir, it's been surveyed, it was surveyed prior to us buying it. The whole area was surveyed and kind of divided out.
Do you know how far your property corners are off of the railroad?
It's about 30 feet from the center of the railroad.
The railroad tracks or?
Yeah, from the railroad tracks it's 30 feet. And then from there, they have the 20-foot easement, and then you're all 30-foot setback from that, which puts us at like 50 feet from our property line. So we're just trying to scoot our property, scoot the easement up from getting rid of that 30 foot. So we're just 20 feet back from our property line. If that makes sense.
You're saying your property line is 30 feet from the center of the railroad tracks,
Yes, sir.
and then your house is going to be 20 feet beyond that?
Actually, it'll be 30 feet from our property line, 30 feet back from the property line. Which it's supposed to be 50 feet from our property line because of the 20-foot easement and then the 30-foot setback.
You see this drawing right here?
Yeah, there's a drawing that Bill Wilson did.
It's the one that's got pink on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you see the 50 foot from the center?
Oh, yeah, okay, yes. That is correct. Our property line is 50 feet back from the center of the railroad, and then that 20-foot easement, and then the 30-foot setback.
So there's an additional access easement over your property that is separate from the easement that the railroad runs through,
Well,
or the railroad's right-of-way, rather.
there's a railroad right-of-way, and then they wrote a letter that went around that the railroad was kind of letting all the property owners use that easement, but for whatever reason, with the planning boards and stuff, it's in question of that letter. So we're kind of just trying to use steps without that letter. But the railroad kind of gave us a letter that basically we could just go 30 feet back from our property line for the setback, but
On this map, where will your house be?
Well, it shows us 50 feet back from our property line. We're trying to come up 20 feet from that, so we'd be 30 feet back from the property line.
So 10 feet behind the 20-foot easement.
Yes, sir.
All right, then that says it's 80 feet to your house from the center of the railroad track.
That would be 80 feet, yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That square there, is that the septic field?
All the lines are the septic field.
What's that square to the right?
46 by 44.
That is a template of a house plan. We're trying to go a little, that's what Bill did with this, Bill Wilson, drew up for us. So we're trying to get a house that's a little bit deeper than that. We're just doing a 3-bedroom home. So we're trying to gain some space on make that house a little bit deeper.
So the 46 by 44 is your house footprint?
Yes, sir, but we're trying to get a little deeper of a house. That was what we're allowed right now with the way everything stands for a 3-bedroom to fit our septic fields in. And everything's really tight. That's the reason we're here, trying to gain an extra 20 feet in the front and then 5 feet on the side.
So this isn't even close to being to scale?
So this was the septic layout that Environmental Health did when they first went out and evaluated the property. They drew what could fit, all other things being equal. And so he just provided that, since that was the county's first stab at looking at that property. And after Bill did his evaluation and they saw that it was going to be very small what they had to work with, then they decided to apply for the variance to try to get a little bigger footprint than this.
Okay, but, Thomas?
Yes, sir.
If that's 50 feet and that's 20 feet, he's saying the house is going to be 10 feet beyond the 20 feet,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So that house is actually going to be right up here.
Correct. That's what they're asking you if they can do.
How close up there?
Well, it's going to be right in here. If that's 50 feet and that's 20 feet,
it's
it's
gonna be
going to be
in
10 feet back from there, so the house is going to be right here.
Within
I mean, that's
how-
even not close.
Within how many feet of that easement?
10.
Within 10 feet?
Is that correct, Thomas?
Yes, sir. 10 feet from the easement is what they've requested.
And the regulations would be 30?
Correct.
So they're asking to move that back 10 feet. They're asking for a 10-foot variance.
Well, they're asking for a 20-foot variance.
20.
Because they would have to be 30 feet behind that easement based on our zoning. He wants to be 10 feet from it. So he's moving up 20 feet.
if he followed the rule, our standard, he'd be 30 feet back from that 20 feet.
Yes.
So he's asking the 30 feet to come to 10 feet.
Right. Which actually is 30 feet from his property line, but only 10 feet from the easement, because the easement
Okay.
runs across his property.
So his house is going to be 30 feet back of his property line.
Correct.
Okay, now, where do you think the road is in that 50 feet?
The road is in the easement?
No, the road is between the easement and the railroad tracks.
Okay.
So in the 50 feet, you see the 50 feet?
Yes, sir.
Where's the gravel road?
Right in the middle of that.
So you all have an additional easement across your property in case the railroad ever takes away
Exactly.
their private drive.
Right.
And that's recorded along all of them down through there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That clears up a lot of confusion.
You see this drawing, this map?
Yes, sir.
And you're at 5039? Mm-hmm. What number is the new house that's just beyond your empty lot?
It's
Got
2
the
lots
front.
past us, so if you're doing it traditionally,
43?
yeah, it'd be
43.
41.
So it's
or
43.
Yeah. 50-43.
And so that says that there's an empty lot between the house that's existing and their request, and then the one we talked about in October is actually 5037, which is actually shown here as 5035.
Correct, yeah, the one we did in October was the one south of them.
Is that correct?
South.
Yes, sir.
The other variance is your neighbor.
Yes.
And the variance, side variance you're asking is on the side toward 5041.
No, for the side variance will be towards 5037. Yeah.
So that says your house not gonna be over there, it's gonna be over here.
No, it's gonna be over there. It's to give us more septic. We're
It's
not
room
gonna-
for our
It's not
septic
to
line.
build, it's just more septic line.
So the variance is for your septic field, not your house.
The front variance is for a house, and the side variance is for our septic line.
Which we don't actually even have to look at a variance for that. We're only looking at anything above the ground.
Well, that says they don't need a variance on that other lot then.
On the side, I would agree with that.
So you're not asking for a side variance for your house.
Yeah, just to make sure we understand, so we could actually go to the property line with the sewer. We don't have to have a 10 feet setback on the side.
Well, that's an environmental health question, that's not a zoning issue.
Oh, okay.
So you have to follow their rules as far as where you place the septic. So this board can't grant you any kind of variances on where your septic lines lay. That's environmental health, which falls under state regulations.
We just
So-
assumed it was footprint and we needed.
So you all basically copied the request that the folks did in October, and they asked for a side yard variance as well because they actually were going to build in that 5 feet.
Right.
So,
No, I don't have any
We don't
intent to
have
build
intent
in.
to build wider, we just need deeper and we were hoping to get more septic.
Okay, Thomas, then we're gonna have to revise this request because
sir.
they're not asking for a side variance for their house.
that is correct.
All right, let's go back. What is the standard for a side variance on this lot for their house?
The standard setback would be 10 feet.
And they're gonna put their house where?
Sounds
The
like
house
10
will still be in
feet.
that same,
How far will your house be from your property line as you're facing the river? How far will your house be from the property line on the right?
10, we're going to try to stick with the 10 feet.
Okay. And that is what they need to do?
Yeah, 10 feet is what we
So-
require.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
So to clear all this up, what we're looking at is only a front yard variance. And that front yard variance is a reduction from 30 feet from the edge of the easement down to 10 feet from the edge of the easement.
And bottom line, that is 80 feet from the center of the railroad track. If you believe these numbers. Is that
that's what
correct?
it should be.
Yes.
But it still would equal out to your 30 feet setback that you have. It kind of gives us some relief because of the additional railroad easement.
Yeah, so what they're saying is that the house would still be 30 feet from their property line because the front 20 feet of their property is the easement, the additional easement.
Yeah, so it's actually just giving us some relief from the additional easement, but it still meets your standard requirement of 30 feet from the road.
Anybody have any more questions for this family? Do you hear a motion?
I make a motion
And the motion is?
with what Thomas,
Well, I thought we probably need to make sure that there's nobody here who wants to speak one way or
Does anybody
another.
here oppose this request? Thank you.
Just be
Okay.
safe.
so you need to change the verbiage.
Yeah.
The The sentence, additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from one side of the property line. That sentence needs to come out,
Correct.
right? The rest of it is valid. Is that correct? The rest of that paragraph?
That's right.
I'm on the second paragraph.
Yes, a reduction to 10 feet. Right, so they're looking, but in simplest terms, they're asking for a front yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 10 feet. That's it.
That 10 feet is the 10 feet beyond the 20-foot is easement.
Correct.
Okay? If we take out that last sentence in the second paragraph, is that paragraph then correct?
Yes.
Brian, does that
Yep.
meet your,
That should.
Thomas,
Yes, sir.
does that meet your
Yes, sir.
Yep.
scrutiny?
It does. Thank you.
Marlene, does it meet yours? Okay. So that's, we have a motion, and you didn't say whether it's yea or nay,
Yes.
to accept the
to
variance.
accept,
We have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. We have a second. Roll call.
Bruce? Yes. Joe?
Yes.
Stanley? Yes. Brian?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes. Okay, when's groundbreaking?
Forever from now.
It's frozen.
Well, you got all your stumps moved. Look like you got your trees and your stumps piled up. You're gonna have a hell of a fire.
Yes, sir.
You have a burning permit?
Not yet. I think the guy that's clearing is supposed to take care of that.
That's a heck of a
We
pile.
didn't have house plans because we didn't know what our footprint was, so because we had already bought house plans before we found out we didn't have a footprint, so we've been waiting.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, the next one is Three Sisters.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. As we all know, this is on East Millers Cove, off East Millers Cove. This particular project, the Three Sisters project, has been before y'all 5 times previously. This will make number 6. Last time was in August. This request is another revision to the existing master plan, if you want to look at it that way. The site plan attached to the special exception. This one's a little different because we're actually modifying it by adding more land to the project. As y'all know, it's a mixed-use plan unit development. I'll let the applicant speak to the big picture here, but basically they have the opportunity to pick up some additional pieces of property down at the bottom. And want to incorporate that again into the master plan for the development of their operations center. The last time we saw them back in the summer, that particular revision included the footprint for what would have been the operations center up the road a little bit, but I think this opportunity has presented itself, and Matt can probably articulate that a lot better than I can. So.
Okay, anybody here in favor of this? Anybody here in favor of this request?
Matt Smith. All right.
Man, are you gonna become a member of the board?
I feel like Norm coming in here. I'm in here frequently enough. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so like Thomas said, there are 3 parcels right there. They're immediately to the right, adjacent to the entry. One of them was owned by Ben Spoon, and then 2 of them were owned by Ethan McGroom. And, about a year ago or so, Ben told me that he was interested in selling his property. He was going to move over into the Cold Spring side of the mountain there and take care of his mom. And at that time, we looked at there were some covenants and restrictions on that neighborhood that were put in place. There's a 13-lot subdivision there, and they pretty clearly stated, typical residential stuff. Said it was all residential use and whatnot. So I let Ben know that we probably couldn't do that. It probably wasn't feasible because anything we do is more or less some quasi-commercial use. He was still willing to talk with the neighbors and see if anybody, would go along with the idea of releasing that property from the restrictions and set up a meeting. So I met with and talked with all the neighbors there immediately adjacent to the entry. Ultimately, everybody kind of informally voted there together that they felt comfortable having Blackberry as a neighbor, having us as a neighbor there at the entry. I explained what our use was, which is primarily that, in the back of that property there, there's a big flat area that adjoins us. You can tell it kind of used to have been a farm, and there was a big field that at one point in time on what was the Hembry's property, that's now the McGroom's property, had kind of come back. We built a little maintenance building there, but there's an old field there that's just flat, and flat land on that project is a premium for us. The site that we looked at in August where we were going to do our operations center is, probably a 20% slope, so it's kind of a lot of benching, and doing a building that loads in, loads out. So there's just an ease of use for us if we were able to pick that property up. And also its adjacency to the entry helps because winter weather, things like that, it'll be useful to have a garage, be able to have, the tractor, all the equipment that takes care of the road, those type of things there right at the entry. So the proposal here, let's see, the thing that CEC drew up, this piece, first page of that identifies the 3 parcels right there at the entry. 1, 2, 3, that's the Spoon parcel, the 2 McGroom parcels that are right in the middle of that subdivision that I referenced previously. And this is kind of a quick and dirty here site plan where I asked the site plan guy to tell me, to put in place more or less what we're talking about. So approximately 200 parking spaces. He did more than that, but we're looking at doing approximately 200 parking spaces and then having a building that'd be for grounds, maintenance, those type of uses. Again, basically, this is the same facility you saw in August up the road, but we flattened it out to one level and added the parking. So like I said, we talked to the neighbors there. They all agreed. We put back in place a couple stipulations. One of them is that along the front of the road there on the loop road, we'd maintain a vegetated buffer like it is. We wouldn't put a new entry in on either of the McGroom parcels, which are the eastern 2 parcels. So we'll access that through our existing entry, and then we could access it through Ben Spoon's property where his entry is, and he's got a garage. They had a couple other things there that we put back in place as restrictions of use. They wanted to make sure that we weren't going to use it for like an employee barracks or employee housing. We agreed to that. That's a restriction. They wanted to make sure we wouldn't use it for a shooting range or anything that involved regularly shooting guns. We put that in as a restriction. And they wanted to make sure that we weren't going to fill or impact the spring in any way because it flows under the road and into a pond on an adjacent property owner's property, and we agreed to that. So more or less what's shown on the plan there is how we'd like to use the property. I've got it under contract right now. And basically, I was waiting on this meeting as a contingency to close. And if you guys think that conceptually this is okay to annex it into the condo and that we could use it for this use, then we would do it. I talked with Thomas to see is there any way to do this other than putting it into the condo, and there wasn't really a special exception that we thought fit it. We thought this was the cleanest way to do it, was just add it into the condo and call it, what it was, this operations center use. So that was the approach, followed his lead there on the approach. And fundamentally, that's what it is. So I can say that, the neighbors there asked if they needed to come tonight to speak in favor of it. And I told them probably not. But fundamentally, you got all the 13 parcels right around there. Every single one of those people, the Leonard Martins, the Hiltons, the McGrooms, and Spoon, all signed that agreement to release this, knowing this is what the plan is, have seen this plan and signed off on it. And again, like I said, they felt like having us as a neighbor was as good as, anything. So they were happy to release it.
Matt, on this drawing that you mentioned, where's the entrance to Three Sisters?
So that road there that says, it's this dashed line road right here above, that would be the entry right there.
Is that the entrance today?
That is the entrance today. So there's a gate right there on Loop Road. And then if you were there in the field, you're kind of going down a hill right here. Ben Spoon's property, there's a garage there that's got a red roof on it, is wood, and there's a wood house with a red roof. and he sometimes has like a dump truck parked there. And then you go on down, the McGroom's properties doesn't have anything. The Hembrys, Tommy Hembry had lived there, and they were selling the house, and the house burned down. So right now there's a burned down house and a barn there. And fundamentally where this stuff is about where that house and barn would be. There's an old field back in there that's grown up a little bit, and little poplars and stuff. And the thought is we could clear that field off and do a building. You know, kind of the plan right there is just a one-story building, you know, garage bays, you know.
The neighbors that you had to have the agreement, are they off to the right?
They're on both sides. You see the Hilton there to the right
Yes.
of the parcels, and then across the street is Sam McGroom's mom, or I'm sorry, Ethan McGroom's mom. And then across the street also, adjacent to that, is the Leonard Martins. So you've got kind of, we're on one side of it, the Hiltons are on the other, and then the Leonard Martins and the McGrooms are across the road.
Is the Husky property a part of that agreement?
The Husky property is behind it, and that's a bigger tract, and it kind of like stops and then goes up a hill there. They are not part of that subdivision. They did not have to sign off.
Okay. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, when Matt and I talked about this preliminarily, and we're still going to have to go through the site plan process and get it all dialed in once we get there. But one of the things we talked about, and Matt had mentioned probably be agreeable to doing, is the parking area that you see there adjacent to the Husky track. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but
Yeah.
we talked about maybe kind of scooting all this stuff
Yeah.
over a little bit to allow more of a separation and more of a buffer against that Husky property. And the topography works in their favor.
Yeah, we can
too,
keep
but-
20 feet there easy or something. You know, the way that went down was, there was some question on my end. I was kind of holding my breath to see if I was really going to get all these, 13 parcel property owners to agree to release it. And so I hadn't really spent any time on the plan. I just said, yeah, if everybody says it's great, I mean, it looks good to us. It's flat land, we would buy it. They agreed and signed those releases. And the week that they did, I then came to Thomas and said, hey, Thomas, so how do I do this? I just want to make sure that I'm square. I didn't know if that was a variance or, what I was going to have to do. And when I talked to him, it was kind of like, okay, well, if you want to be in January, the deadline is Friday. And so I just real quickly went to my land plan guy and had him put something on paper pretty fast that is the concept. I got a 5,000 square foot building and 200, he drew more than that, but over 200 parking spaces is kind of what I'm going for. If I can do that there, then I feel comfortable we're going to close. So I'm kind of holding them up right now on that sales contract, just to know that would be okay.
I don't see a building on here.
The building, is right there in the middle of these two parking areas. So it says 30 by 160 building. And then shows carts charging stations, so that would be like golf carts. And then the rest of those in there are all considered, those are parking spaces that he's trying to show. So he's calling it out.
Parking, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, the building is kind of loaded on the either side. And we haven't designed the building. I was just gonna make sure everything's a go and then design the building, but I anticipate a one-story building, green, garage bay doors, and it's grounds and maintenance and that type of stuff. We have a shipping and receiving place already that we plan to do down in Walland, and we got some stuff that we're gonna kind of run through planning there for Walland, because I think that's the way we gotta go with it. It doesn't go to BZA, but that's gonna come through and try to keep the traffic we can keep off the road. Obviously, we know that's an issue, but, kind of the way that this works is the traffic's coming in either way, so it's just this one flat spot we can catch it versus on up the road, so.
That building just across the river, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Staff, we're working right now. We'll start onboarding people this year. We think that it's going to be about 200 people at full build out that'll be working on the property. Initially, we're going to start with, I don't know exactly what the number is, but somewhere around 100. So we're going to be working on onboarding people starting this fall. And this will be fundamentally where they park and ride.
Is this the only entrance to the whole thing?
There are two entrances. This is the primary entrance.
The people that are gonna park here and go to work, You gonna transport them up to wherever they're working?
We're going to run a shuttle.
You're gonna run it for your employees?
Yes, sir, for the employees.
And you're going, this complex is going to employ about 200 people?
In time, that's the projection.
I still think it'd be wise if we went up there and looked at it.
I'm sorry?
I have a question, and this is not relative to this, so we can finish this and then I can ask.
Okay.
Your potential build-out timeframe?
So this last year, we finished the restaurant at the top of the mountain and 4 cabins, and decided to do 2 more. Those will be finished in May. So the part at the top of the mountain will be done, in May. The restaurant's open and it's functional now. It could be rented out for an event or anything, but really we're not open until the beginning of, let's see, it's just became 2018, right? So the beginning of 2019, President's Day weekend will be when we try to open. So everything else that you've seen on that plan is fundamentally under construction. We got permits now. I'm building 4 houses, 13 cottages, and the lodge and 2 cabins. And we're starting way on the hub, which is kind of the recreation center. So all that, the deal on my end is I'm delivering all that at year's end this year.
At year's end?
At year's end. So all the cottages probably be done around August. The lodge is kind of the push in the whole thing because it's relatively large and complex. The hub buildings, assuming we can get permits, they're ready to go. I think we got a foundation permit on one, and we're just waiting on our finished permits on that.
Anyone here tonight opposed to this request? Any other questions, guys? Comments? Do you hear a motion?
I move we grant a special exemption.
We have a motion to accept. Do you hear a second?
Second.
Is it second? Roll call.
Bruce,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Stanley, Brian,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.